So that feeling of fear, of being attacked, of defending my point of view, comes from a misperception. It's an idea that it's an indication we need some healing in our thought patterns. So maybe what happens then is, if we are aware of this and we're trying to establish right relations, and we can honestly say to that person, look, when you said this, I felt like this, did you mean this? And they're like, no, not at all, I didn't mean that. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. And you see that you made a misperception, so it wasn't the truth. And you get closer to that truth. Or it might be that you go away and you think about that scenario a little bit, and you come to a realization that actually, yeah, you were reacting. You were coming from a place of what people call your own issues or your own past conditioning. And you start to see the truth of that situation. And if you can find that beautiful Buddhic quality, which is forgiveness, forgiveness will bring you back to connection, back to at-one-ment, atonement, back to that love. And when you come back to that love, you raise your vibration incredibly. Forgiveness gives one of the highest. It's one of the reasons that Jesus Christ had such an aura, and as you know, when we pictures depicted, because he came to teach forgiveness, which is one of the highest Buddhic qualities. And this raises your vibration. The fear and the doubt and the anger and the angst and the irritation and the depletes the vibration. So it's about coming back to a place of love, always a return to love. And it just, you know, we're not perfected beings down here. It's an ongoing process that we're working on. Connecting with nature, I've talked a little bit. This is all ways that you can raise your vibration. When you go out into nature, your aura expands. It's like it goes, yeah. Okay? When you're in a city and there are lots of other people, you tend to shrink down, try and kind of contain, protect yourself a little bit. I know when I first came to this country, because I came from New Zealand and from Australia, everyone would stand too close. Oh, don't they just be in my space always? And I found it very hard at first when people would just stand too close, and I would get that, give me some space, I can't breathe feeling. And it's not like that now. I've obviously adapted, but all I can think is maybe it's from coming from a country where there's more space, so I'm used to having, maybe, I don't know, I don't see auras enough to know. Maybe New Zealanders walk around with a bigger aura, I don't know, you know. But you do know, if you go on an aeroplane, what happens to your aura? Horrible. Yeah, not nice energy. Doesn't matter how nice the people are, everybody on that plane experiences such a meltdown, such a shutdown of the energy vibration. When you go into cities, it can be the same, and crowds, it can be the same. When you go out into the countryside, obviously. So it's starting to choose your energy environment. So if you have to go into a negative energy environment, that's fine, won't do you any harm, but go and consciously go into a positive energy environment to do something about the effects and recognize what's going on. I cannot go shopping in shops with fluorescent lights and air conditioning. I'm too sensitive. If I go shopping in a closed-in, you know, if I go to the Trafford Centre or something, within an hour I'm like a zombie. It's like symptoms of the flu. I shut down completely. I'm a hopeless shopper. My mother and sisters just gave up on me years and years ago. Whereas if I was out in the outdoors shopping, I could shop all day. So it's just recognise your own sensitivities for these things. So positive energy environments, you know the things that really infuse your energy. You know the people, the environments. You can change the energy environment in your home. And you can do it through things like feng shui. You can use crystals. So there's lots of physical ways. You can use incense. You can just open doors and windows. You know, if you've had an argument in a room, open up all the windows and get rid of that energy. You can, keeping a house clean, this is part of what keeping it clean helps to keep the energy clean. But one of the most important things about the energy in your home is how much love is in that home. You know, you can go into someone's house who's completely non-feng shui. It can be completely cluttered, completely messy, dirty, whatever, but it's got so much love in there that it's a beautiful place to be. So if people are singing in a house, I always think, especially children, I knew when my marriage broke up, and obviously the energy in our house before that had not been good, I knew that we were going to be okay about a year later when I heard my son singing his lungs off in the shower, and I'm like, we're okay. Do you know what I mean? Children are very receptive to energy. They will quite quickly, you know, in an environment, they're like a little gauge for energy. They'll tell you. So singing, when someone is free to be who they are, they're in a good energy environment. And this is why we like being with the people we like being, because they give us permission to be who we are, just because their energy invites that, because they're happy with who they are, and that reflects in their energy. You can eat a high vibration diet, and I could do a whole lecture on diet, but what I'm going to say is foods that are organic tend to have a higher vibration. Foods that are vegetarian do, but not necessarily. That's a bit of a grey area. Foods that are prepared with love have a higher vibration, which is why home cooking tastes better. Foods that are obviously haven't been sitting around as long. Microwaving foods, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of food before it's microwaved and afterwards, and you can see the aura around food. So foods have an energy field, and after microwaving it's not good, unfortunately. So the food you eat can make, the water you drink has a huge effect on your energy. So, you know, if you can drink filtered water ideally, if you can drink a lot of water, because when you have negative energy, part of that negativity has to be processed by the physical body through the organs in the body. And so if you can keep those organs clear, and you help to flush out negative energy through drinking lots of pure water. You can put crystals in water, you can bless water. You probably know about the studies of Emoto with his water. You're all aware of, yeah, don't need to go into that. So we are 70% water. Okay, so the other thing about your diet, and what a lot of people might not realise, and this is getting into, I suppose, where mankind is headed. When we have a cell, any cell in your body, it has a cell wall, it has a cell membrane. And this membrane is like the boundary between that cell and its outside environment. So it lets things in and out of the cell. Now the cell membrane is made up of a lot of different fats, and the fats in your cell membrane will depend what fats are in your diet. When you eat a lot of animal products and saturated fats, and even hydrogenated products like margarine that tend to produce what's called trans fatty acids in your body, the cell membrane around your cell gets quite dense, and it won't let a lot of light in. And you're thinking, well, what does that matter? We don't live on light. But the thing is, the cells in our body actually do respond to light. They're actually photoelectric. We will eventually evolve to a time where we don't need to eat to feed those cells. We can live on light. And I think there's been yogis who've claimed not to have eaten for years and years, to have lived on prana and chi, the light energy, the sunlight energy, because that's where chi and prana comes from. And it doesn't just come from the physical sun, it comes esoterically from the heart of the sun, from the subtle sun chakra, if you like, behind, that which stands behind the sun. So this light energy your cells respond to. And this is also one of the reasons going out in natural light is so good for us. So when you eat a diet that's got the right kind of fats, that's got your fats that come from nuts, that's got your omega-3 and your omega-6s, and I don't want to go too much into diet, but this sort of things that we're advised to eat, that cell membrane gets quite permeable to light. and it lightens everything. It enlightens the cells. So everything is connected, and we have all these different layers of our cells. So in our actually dense physical body, if we can enlighten, we can open up the cells to light. It means that the light in our environment, the energy coming from other people, but also when you do things like visualizations or relaxations or meditations where you're invoking light into the body, you actually open up those cells to an enlightening experience. It doesn't have to be light as we know it, it's energy. It doesn't have to be light we can see. So this is where your diet can make a huge difference to your vibration. Deep sleep, we don't have to have a certain number of hours of sleep. The important thing is that we get a certain amount of deep sleep. When I went to a talk in Conway that the Swami gave, he said in deep sleep, if in meditation we consciously rest in the arms of God, in deep sleep we unconsciously rest in the arms of God, if you like, and there's no greater place to be rejuvenated. I know that in terms of my yoga, when a person deeply relaxes, they call it the relaxation response, there can be healing that goes on in such deep levels of the body, right through the levels, not just physical, far more than could go on in a whole night's sleep. You can get more rejuvenation in a deep, deep state of relaxation sometimes than you do in hours and hours of sleep that isn't deep. So this is where stopping, relaxing, especially going into these deeper states, makes a huge difference to your vibration. There's lots of therapies and physical practices. The idea that within our physical body we store trapped energy. A lot of people who are very low in energy, it's not that they don't have enough energy, it's that it's not moving in their body. In a yogic way, depression is very much a blockage in the solar plexus chakra. The energy is not flowing. Okay? And it's often due to events in a person's life that they just cannot deal with. And this is causing, so it's a mixture of, it can be physical events, it can be emotional, usually more emotional. It's a mixture of the two. And we do get actual energy blocks in our body. And these can be quite physical, and they can manifest eventually as physical dis-ease, as disease. And so there are lots of therapies that help to release the blockages in your energy, to allow your energy to flow. So when you have a massage, it's not only the sort of kneading of the actual muscles and the connective tissue and the lymph tissue and stuff, but the therapist is working with your energy body as well, helping to release any stuck energy so that the energy flows. And this is why sometimes after a massage you can feel quite emotional. It may be that it's released some emotional energy as well as the physical working on your body. And there's all sorts of physical practices, things like yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong work with energy. So I know, especially in the yoga that I teach, sure the physical yoga is important, but far more important is what I would call the energy or the subtler yoga. The physical postures become, as you move up into the higher realms of yoga, it gets less and less physical, more and more subtle, until it becomes almost mind yoga. You can move into areas where you're working with energy in the body where there's very little physicality at all. And this is where these type of practices, people are drawn to them now because people are starting to recognise the way we live, our environment's not good for our energy, and they're looking for ways intuitively to replenish their energy. Things like homeopathy, herbs, flower remedies, these all work on a vibrational note. They work in an energetic way in your body. When you find the right note, if you like, for a person's particular vibration, you create immense healing in that body. And this is how these modalities work in terms of healing. It's said, I was reading in Bailey's work the other day, that we will gradually move into healing more and more with sound. And we will come to understand what the Atlanteans already knew, about sound and using sound to heal because of its vibratory note, and almost vibrating with the note of a particular organ, vibrating with the note of a particular soul. I mean, energy is vibration, and sound is one of the most powerful forms. So you know yourself what music can do to your energy field. I mean, some musics have profound effects on us, don't they? And we start, if we took that further and further, I've worked a little bit with notes that work on different chakras and just help that chakra to come into balance. And you can sing. You'll probably find that you naturally do this. Children do this. If they have a chakra out of balance, they will naturally sing the notes that they need to heal. So there's lots of areas that we will move into in the future in terms of understanding that I think are exciting and starting to come about now, which is cool. I've talked a little bit about pranayama, or the link between your mind and your breathing, sound and music. Mother Teresa says, if you go into the silence where God speaks in the stillness of the heart. So this is where I suppose I would say that meditation is one of the most important practices for pulling all of the other things in your life that you do together, for coordinating that personality vehicle and for connecting with the soul, so that intuitive, a lot of what we do to look after our energy fields is intuitive. You probably find you were doing stuff and you didn't even know that's why you were doing it. You just knew that for some reason it felt the right thing to do. And this is very much what we do all the time. Wearing different colours, being in different colours, the colour of a room, and we're starting to understand that. We start to understand it in terms of chakras, in terms of energy fields. But these are whole topics in themselves. What I'd like to do I was trying to think of a way to depict this in a diagrammatic form in terms of layers. To me, the most important thing is working on this place to detach, to stand in your light, in your glory, in your magnificence, which is what you do when you stand in the light of your soul, when you become the silent observer, the watcher. It's not detached in an uncaring way. Someone said to me, he's a counsellor in bereavement, and he came to one of my talks and he said, but I don't want to be detached. Part of my healing that goes on with the people I counsel is because I'm in there with them, attached, emotionally in there. I said, it's detachment, but it has more love than you will ever know. It's not a place, he said, it's not a place where there is no love. It is a place where there is so much love. But it's not a conditional, attached kind of love. It's it's divine love, if you like. So sometimes when I say detached, people think, well, I don't want to be detached. It's not separative. Detached can be unifying. I know that's crazy words, but if you get the feel for what I'm saying. So if that's our core, developing this silent observer, and then this right intention, thought and action, which a lot of it, if you do any of the Buddhist, comes from the Four Noble Truths, and the 8 paths of the Buddhists come into this. A lot of the Bailey work comes into this. There's all kinds of traditions that will bring you into this place. Then these other changes, the ones in your life, like being less inclined to, they just happen. You sort of start to find that you're drawn to more positive energy. You let friends who really don't serve you well energetically kind of go. You find it's not a good idea to watch the news at 10 o'clock at night before you go to bed, because you go to bed with that energy. I had my parents staying with me for 3 weeks from New Zealand recently, and just a few of their habits, which were fine, but they're very different to mine. The energy, the difficulty I had with the energy in my house and with my energy, just the news being on all the time. I don't do that. I just find there's too much negative. If we had positive news all the time, yeah. And so just a few things like that, and when someone comes to stay in your house, you realise what a difference these things can make. So these things tend to naturally occur. You might find you're naturally drawn to wearing crystals, you're naturally drawn to wanting to drink more water, you're naturally drawn to a more vegetarian diet, you're naturally drawn to the outdoors, to connecting with like-minded folk. And so these tend to just naturally occur when you work on these two. So these are the core. And what this does, you know, when your energy starts to really vibrate, you've got plenty of energy to take out. You know, in Theosophy we have study, meditation and service. And this is the key to having enough energy to take true service. Service given